Hello and welcome to this session, and we are very happy to have you here with us today. Everyone, Phil is our lovely host, and we have amazing guests today. So maybe we are going to do some round of introductions first, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's just do a quick round of introductions. Let everyone know who everyone is and how they got here. Be
yes,
great.
all right. All right, I'm going to start then. So I'm Veselina. I'm part of Chaos team, and I'm super excited to be here and support this session, support Phil, our host, and our guest. And I will be mostly on the background, listening and soaking up on all of this information that is going to be shared today. I'm very happy to be here and welcome to this session.
Thank you very much. First, Bill, before you introduce yourself, could you show us your coffee cup?
Yeah. So this is a coffee cup my mom bought for me for my birthday. And so
Do
I
you
love
spill
like
coffee a lot? And that's why she's giving you this completely
I
stable.
yeah, I drink way too much coffee, way too caffeinated, so it's my little cheat so I can keep going, especially in the afternoons when I get tired. But yeah, I love like handmade pottery, and so this is one that she got for me and I thought it was kind of cool.
There
So,
you go. Well,
yeah.
introduce yourself. Keep going. Who
All
are you?
right.
How
So,
did you-
who am I? So background in architecture. I worked primarily in healthcare design in a past life, and then I gravitated towards the tech side as a bid manager at a few different firms in Colorado. And then I started a little startup called Evolve Lab in 2015. And we started building products that I wanted when I was working in architecture, things that automated construction documents, and then with interoperability, converting models from SketchUp to Revit, Revit to Rhino, those kinds of things. And then AI came out. We got really excited about that and started building tools around AI. So one of those is Veras. Some of you guys may have heard of it. And then in February of this year, we joined the Chaos family. So we got acquired by Chaos, and now we're part of the Chaos team. And so that is a brief intro to me.
Thank you. Nikos, go ahead and we'll save the best.
Yes, well, thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here. So, hello everyone, and big thank you to the community. I can see so many people being here, so thank you for joining us. My name is Nikos Golopoulos. I'm the founder of Creative Lighting. We offer corporate training, workshops, masterclasses to architects, designers, visualization studios, help them to master visualization plus AI, and also master storytelling through the power of light and composition. I believe so much in communities. I help many communities to be built, to be honest. I was part of the 3D London community for many years. I'm the co-founder of 3D New York, 3D Athens, and also the host of the Chaos Campus Live Show. And the last year, I'm working, actually, it's been third year now, I'm working closely with Chaos. We do masterclasses online. And this year was our most successful because we had more than 5,700 registrations. So thank you for your support. If there's people that attended, it means a lot to me. So that's who I am.
Thank you. And please go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Ming Yi Fan. I'm the director of visualization over at Shop Architects in New York. In my past lives, I've been a lighting designer, I've been an exhibition designer, I've done watercolor images of churches. But in my current life, I am not only managing visualization in the form of traditional still imagery and animation, but I'm also part of a larger R&D team at Shop that deals with not only AI, but also real-time technology, VR, mixed reality, whatever, So we really try to see like where we can try to take visualization to the next step, whether that's something that's more interactive or something that starts to blur the lines between what's architecture visualization and what's gaming, what's CGI, VFX, or even in aerospace. So like our projects are not just buildings. We work on aircraft carriers, we work on pavilions. We've been working, kind of stretching out more into modular technology, whether it's data centers or sort of more solar carport type of things. It's sort of it's a mixed sort of programming office. So we just try to do things that are quite exciting and fun. And then along with Nikos, we overlapped a little bit in time, but I'm also currently a co-organizer at 3D New York. And that's mostly, it started off as just ArcViz, but right now, because of the current zeitgeist, we're trying to bring in all forms of 3D. And we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to learn and diversify and figure out what their next steps are.
Thank you very much. We were already chatting and getting into it before the discussion even started. And as we think about the major, just extraordinary developments that have occurred this year, the theme that kind of kept popping up was we learned how to do it when things went slow, and it seems to have helped us now that things can go fast. And so how do you think, like, over this last year, think about or discuss, you guys, how things have developed and have accelerated and how they become more predictable, but why is it still important to understand how to do things the old way, the manual way? What is the value in that?
Well, I guess I'll touch on it, and you guys feel free to chime in here and tell me where I'm wrong. But I would say the last year has kind of just not been so groundbreaking as it has been iterating on past technology. It felt like 2022 when AI really started to become more mainstream. It was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, but the woman still has four fingers on her hand. It's like kind of this like incredible technology, but it's not quite right. And then
Mm.
then it started seeming like a new model would come out every 6 months, and it just kept iterating and getting better and better. And so that is what I kind of seen. And then I know we'll get into it, but I know the buzzword this year has been agentic AI. Like if you went to AU last year, that's like everything that Autodesk was marketing was this whole agentic AI piece. I haven't seen like super real examples of it yet in our industry. I've seen some in other industries. Um, but I think the potential is there. And then regarding your other question, Phil, about like why we still need to know how to do things the old way, like we still need at the end of the day, these projects need to be real, they need to be put together. And right now, a lot of the generative AI stuff is primarily image and video based. There have been some great examples from like Hypar, for example, where they have like text to BIM and some people doing some things in that space. But a lot of the generative AI technology hasn't really touched so much on very practical, processes as it relates to construction documents or putting a building together, et cetera. Of course, there's exceptions to that. There's some really incredible things that people are doing, but as far as mainstream, I think the rest of the industry is kind of catching up to that piece, in my opinion. But feel free to chime in and tell me where I'm wrong on that assessment.
Yeah, many you were mentioning that students still need to learn how to sketch. They still need to learn how to do things in a traditional manner before they start accelerating them. So how do you guys use that kind of thinking at shop to prepare your new interns and even existing team members to use the tools in a way that still requires judgment and accountability?
Well, so shop right now is, I think we're about like 150 people. We have now equipped everybody with a Gemini Pro licenses at this point. So I think things are going to be very interesting in the next 6 months to see where we all end up. But we are a small office doing a lot of big work. And I think like one thing that happens very frequently is you might have like 2 to 3 people on a project, even one person on a project. And that requires a lot of quick problem solving. And if you're going to be, and we talked about this earlier too, before the webinar started, was that if you are completely reliant on an AI solution or an agentic agent, right? Repetitive. Agent right now, it's sort of this thing where like you're not actually sure if it's getting you the right solution. And so
Right.
I think you need to be sort of equipped with this plethora of critical tools to be like, okay, this is like even just like deciding, hey, like I'm not going to pursue this solution right now because it's not going to work for me. I need to pivot to something else, right? And I think you kind of need these sort of base critical thinking skills to realize it's like this isn't going to work. I have to try something else, right? And this is only going to happen through sort of real life practical applications where these skills are honed over time of problem solving. And right now, I think like the sort of quagmire we're in is like AI is problem solving for us. but we're not sure if it actually is doing a good job. Um, and so to go back to like what Bill was talking about, like we've been trying to do more with AI and architecture, so not just in ArcViz, but like, can we use this to generate a floor plan? Can we use this to build like a quick BIM model of like a section detail? And it's all like it's kind of there, so it's shaping up, and so it's going to be really exciting to see what happens, but it's not quite there yet. So you kind of need to bring in people with the traditional knowledge, with the expertise, with, having studied this stuff for like years and years to be like, here, like I can give you the actual solution.
Yeah, is that empathy seems like it's still important? Like if you
I
can't,
think so. Yeah.
Nikos, in the
Uh,
terms of like, I don't know how I always for myself, I find out it gets close enough and then I have to just do it in post. That's the last bit. That's the last mile. Otherwise, I get frustrated. I use AI until it starts frustrating me, and then I stop and just do the rest manually. And I don't
yes.
know if I feel like other people are having much more success. Like they're just getting everything and it works for them, and I'm doing something wrong. But maybe everyone is getting the same kind of result where they just get close enough, and then the rest is
I
it's done
totally
in
agree.
post.
We're getting there, but we're not actually there. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
basically, I've seen some huge improvements this year in quality, in speed. The AI tools, they're getting better. But, without traditional knowledge, how can you judge? How can you complete your story or your idea or your vision? So basically, we'll need that traditional knowledge. If you want to judge AI, you need to have knowledge about lighting and composition and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not expecting AI to do the work. It's my creator collaborator, let's say. So yeah, we need that knowledge. And there is some huge improvements, but I believe that we don't have control. To keep the control, you need that traditional knowledge because then you are the master and these are the tools. And definitely, I'm a big fan of tools. In my career, I have so many different tools that help me to work faster and master and more efficient. So if AI can offer me that, I'm going to add them into my toolbox. But without my traditional knowledge and the years I spent to master my craft, and I'm have a long way to go as well, which is my passion, learning something new every day. So I totally believe that all these artists that are out there getting worried about AI, they should definitely try it out. But don't forget that their own skills, they need to be built. They need to keep working on themselves. And at the end of the day, it's just tools that make us work more efficient.
Um, but the efficiency part, I mean, does it come as a cost? You mentioned, Mangy, about pointing out that, hey, you guys could have done this manually by now. Where's the diminished returns? How do you guys internally judge? Let's go to this point and then let's stop, because it's so tempting to just keep generating these beautiful automatic things. And at some point you have to stop and start the, the
We,
judgment process.
well,
You need to have a
we
vision.
do have
A
real
goal.
deadlines, so that usually
Yeah.
that
You
helps,
already have a constraint.
I was just thinking of also what Nico said about this being like a tool.
Mm.
Like for instance, when 3D printers came out, you didn't suddenly start having less model makers. Like we, for instance, we have a fabrication team at the office, and
You
it's
guys still build physical models.
we build physical models. So like if you guys ever come to the office, we have huge physical models. Like we've been actually working with them pretty closely because we do a lot of one-to-one representation. So it's like take this rendering and turn it into that space in the physical model. So all the details are exactly the same. And it's a cool collaborative process. We're seeing a lot of returns also now with AI 3D generation. That's been a really cool part of the process. But when 3D printers came out, it wasn't that suddenly like everybody could just be their own model maker and you don't have professional model makers anymore. You still needed these people to bring in their expertise to tell you how to do things the perfect way and to put it together and make sure it doesn't fall, right? And to understand materiality and tell you what's like the best material to use for this kind of printer. And I think like AI is sort of a similar tool. It obviously, I think, helps expedite ideation and maybe gets you to a better conclusion quicker. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean we're doing better, but we can do more. And hopefully
Right.
through creating more output, we can get to that better result faster.
I like the 3D printers. There was so much excitement when they came out. And then I quickly realized the process to get the result was, oh, you have to do post on the model because there's You don't want a solid geometry. You want it to be hollow because the material is expensive. Okay, so let me clean that up.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
So it's like the same process right now.
these
Yeah.
pieces are too thin. I have to thicken those or otherwise they'll break. Um, okay, now we're going to print it. It takes about an hour for each level inch. Okay, now it's done. It's been overnight printing, and you have to get it out of the dust and clean it off. And then, oh, it didn't work. And
It
you're like,
didn't work, and then you have to do this again versus if we just physically. I mean, it allowed us to build forms that were much harder
oh yeah, that you couldn't
than we
build.
could before. And I think that's the same thing with AI. It just gets us to results faster. But we don't necessarily know if the result is the correct result. It's just a result. And so, like, for us as a team, like our sort of mentality on this is like we have, let's say, the same amount of people. We're not producing the same amount of work. We're producing more work. And hopefully through that work, we can get to those, that one gem of an idea faster, like that one perfect image faster.
And you guys are still building physical models, and there's a lot of time and there's a lot of craft and there's a lot of maybe a necessary slowness that goes, but there some principle about building good physical models that we need to transfer into the efficiency of AI? What's the essence of the physical model process that's really important to design?
I think it's that attention to detail, right? And making sure that, like, and this was in school too. I remember it was like my first year was like your model has to be perfect, like perfectly cut. And this is before 3D printers. And so perfectly painted, no glue showing. And it's sort of that like level of craft, I think, that we need to bring to understanding AI and understanding what we can do with AI to create a more perfect result. And I think, our 3D artists right now are building amazing images, amazing animations, and like, you can zoom in. We were on a call with Nadia Monte from Binyan yesterday. She was also talking about previously about how they work on detail, how they get it down to the fabrics. You could see all this texture. And I think that's the sort of craft that, like, if you put this in front of a client, they're going to appreciate, right? And we also work a lot with crafting images that speak to a certain community or a certain demographic or a certain client. And I think AI isn't quite there yet in terms of being able to craft that level of detail. But when you do it and a client sees it, they're like, okay, you're connecting with me, right? You understand me. You're really investing in this project. And this is from physical model to image to animation to project design in general. And I think that's the sort of thing that like we're not quite there yet is craft and detail. And I know there's a lot of that in 3D artists. And I think like that's sort of the thing where like we still need that hand, right? The human hand to kind of guide that process. And I think it's something we shouldn't lose.
Or is it false to think that we should use AI to go faster, or do we use it to go in the same amount of time, but to be more rigorous?
I think we should go
A
faster.
balance. We're not going faster because the building can't be built just the moment
But
we
I think for like ideation, we can go faster, right? We can
totally.
get to that point faster. And for us, I mean, we've always been enamored with this idea of, the one architect's hand, the napkin sketch, right?
Hmm.
The concept that partie that's sometimes kind of hard to understand. And like, a lot of what we preach is like democratizing architecture and making sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand it and to contribute to it, outside of just sort of this immediate bubble of architects and designers. So when you're able to create, let's say, something that might be a little bit less conceptual, but more photorealistic, you can use AI to generate 10 sketches, right? And you can put it in front of anyone now. It's not just someone who's been through design school. You can put it in front of someone who's like, an elderly member of the community, who's never engaged with architecture, and they can see that and they can be like, I understand this image. I understand what you're trying to achieve here, and I can tell you what I like and what I don't like. And so through that whole process, we're sort of circuiting everything so that we are moving faster towards designing a better solution.
Okay. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
There's I think it's called Creative Inc., the book by Ed Catmull.
Hmm.
He was with Pixar, and there's some I think it's that book, maybe, or maybe it's John Lasseter's bio, but he was doing his internship at Disney and pitched using computers to do cell animation or effectively to do animation. And they wanted to know if it would save them on hand, people that do hand drawing. And he said, no, 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 but we'll tell amazing stories if we use these computer tools. And they ended his internship and he didn't know what he was going to do at that point. He was gutted because he thought his life would always be at Disney. And so I don't know if the requirement or the promise that we're going to go faster, better with AI is necessarily good. Maybe we take the same amount of time and do more things to be more rigorous. And it's not about short circuiting the design process, from months to days because we can go fast, but we can go from months to months and have a more rigorous process. Bill, you guys have come a long way in the last 12 months with Veras. Certainly it's from still image to animation. And where do you see how would you recap the last year? Where have we come and where are we going?
Yeah, I think, well, just to comment really quick, just on the last piece of conversation, I was going to just say really quick that I think there's a difference between going fast and the amount of work that is the output. So, um, generative AI helps us go fast. So to your point of like in your last question about Veras and image generation. So like I'm sure all of us remember. I'm trying to judge based on how old everyone's on this call. Maybe Menji, you're much younger, but maybe you also did this. Is that we used to like network computers together, and then you would hit render at night, and then in the morning you would pray that like your image came out in a good way, and now you can like prompt and in 5 seconds you get this beautiful rendering and it looks like it's all post produced and all that. So you are doing it faster, but the output that you're getting, we're starting to iterate and create more images. And then to your question, Phil, about like where we've been the last year, now we're creating videos. Like generative AI is going image to video, and that's what we're doing with Veras now. Is now you can put in an image and then you can create a video. And again, this is something that took an immense amount of time networking computers together, and now using computers in the cloud, you can generate this beautiful animation, and it comes back in a minute or two, and you get this video. So it does speed up the process, but then we just end up creating more images and more videos from that. And it was very interesting when Revit came out, we all went, "Oh, this is cool. Like you can just cut a section through the building or drop in an elevation marker and it automatically creates that elevation for you. You don't have to like we in the AutoCAD days where we had to draw all of that. So we'll probably have like less drawings, right? No, like if you look at the studies, we actually have like 400% more drawings in our construction document set now. So like even though we're moving faster and iterating quicker, it doesn't mean that we're doing less work. We're actually doing more work, which is
Do we
very
need, is
interesting.
100 enough? Should we do 4,000? Does that help the
Right.
contractors build the buildings, or do we just need to like find a better way? I think we're at diminished returns now with the number of sheets that go in projects. I'm not sure. The
Yeah.
the for anyone out there who's listening or who will listen in the future, if you haven't done image to video in Veras, please turn off the TV tonight and take a still image on the web. Just turn off the TV for one night. Take a still image from the web and prompt it to create a video, to do a task. I don't understand why it's so good. And it does things that I went, oh, yeah, that needed to happen. Like I did a video, I took a photograph of a kitchen and asked it to open the cabinets and show cutlery and plates and things like you would see in cabinets. But when it opened the cabinets, the hardware, which hardly was discernible, maintained its relationship to the doors as the cabinet doors opened. And then I did another task where I said, I just wanted to set the table and the cabinets opened and all the cutlery came out and landed on the table along with a couple of candlesticks. And the reflections back to the casework were accurate from the location, from an image. How is this possible? Like, how does it, Bill, explain to me why this is not magic.
Yeah, it is. It feels a little bit like witchcraft. It is pretty incredible. Just to show people quickly, I know that we have this. It's not the whole screen. I'll share kind of what we have here going on, but this is pretty cool that you can, upload an image and then have this, video created from this. And so this is an example of what Phil's talking about, just to kind of put some visuals to the discussion. And so in here you can see, this is a kitchen, and then you can animate people walking in here. This is pretty magical. Even starting to get like, photorealistic people, inside the shot, and the artifacts are less. And so it is pretty profound. And I'm constantly blown away. I do a lot of demos of our products and I know them inside and out. And I would say there's not many times that I do a demo that I'm not myself super impressed. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, did you just see what happened? Like
Look,
it's
this is the oh, that person has 6 fingers stage. In a year, what this is going to become is amazing. And it's
Yeah,
already
for sure.
profound now as an emotional vector or an emotional metaphor. Like as a person is walking across those lights, a kind of a natural artifact of how the light kind of delays and how it changes behind someone. How long, I mean, a 5 second video, I think that's what we're doing now with Veras. Do you
Correct. Yeah.
see, is the future of this the ability to string these together or to create larger sequences? Or do we spend more time prompting than we go, you know what? I'm just going to do this manually now once we get on a vector.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
there's some things that's in our roadmap. You definitely are going to be able to string these together so you can have multiple videos that you can put together. You'll be able to make the videos longer. So the big thing that we're trying to hit on, and I think a lot of people that have used AI in the past, is that it feels like the AI is just has too much creative freedom and we don't feel like we're in the driver's seat. And so the thing we're trying to do is really tie into what we call this control layer. So like you are very much in control of what's happening with the AI engine. You're in control of the output of that. So I think we're in this next phase of okay, AI doesn't just run loose, but now let me be the real orchestrator. Let me be, there's a reason we call it, co-pilot. Like we're supposed to be in the driver's seat. We're supposed to be the pilot, of
right.
these things. So
It seems
100%.
it's still kind of transactional right now. Are we going to get some kind of persistent environment? I mean, I use Enscape because it's persistent. I've got a design environment, and then Enscape renders this persistently based on my design environment. Are we getting to the point where I don't know if it's Enscape or it's Veras, but I'm able to open Veras and persistently see the design environment and ask for things that are persistent? Can I take an empty shell and go, this space is a lobby with this kind of text prompt, and it visually builds what looks like geometry, but there's nothing yet in my design file other than the shell, and you're able to explore that space persistently?
Yeah, 100%. So to your point, this is where we're going with some of this view persistency, where you can go from different perspectives and get, consistent results. So 100%. And just again, I don't want to hijack the whole conversation here, but
No,
I've
no,
been
I
so
want to know where we're going. This is, or
so
where we might be able to go.
So this is some examples that I've been doing this week. So to your point, here I have this colored floor plan. And if I want persistency to create consistency from another perspective, maybe I want to create a 3D perspective of this floor plan. That persistency can persist here inside of this image. And so this is where the tech is going, where you can now start to take, any kind of image and then say, well, now I want a 3D perspective of that, or I want it, from the lobby entrance instead of, from top down. This is where the tech is going, where you do get this persistency from one shot to the next. So 100%.
Yeah, I feel like as a design process, we only know enough up to a certain point, and then we have to ideate kind of ahead of, we have to kind of render or ideate ahead of the design. And I'm wondering if we're going to a place where at each stage we're still using AI. It seems AI seems very transactional right now. I ask for something, I get it, and then I have to put it in the project myself or iterate where I don't know if we could see a point where you have the shell, you have the core, and you're asking for certain ideas and ideation. And then once you get a result that's satisfying, you model enough information to then use AI to persistently not just render images, but actually explore the space to be able to turn around and have that sense of persistence, just like I have an Enscape right now. But there doesn't need to be any geometry there. I don't want to put geometry in the project to find out that it's unsatisfying and then have to pull it out. And please, Bill, don't make me use Revit design options, right? If I could do this with AI and design ahead of the process, but as things are known and as they calcify, the AI is still there for the next stage, down to the lighting, down to the fixtures, down to the finishes. And you think this is where we're heading?
Yeah, I think so. I think Menji, you said you have some great examples of like going like to 3D models and what you guys are doing at Shop. I'd love to hear some thoughts on that. I mean, we've been doing generative design inside of Revit, and we've been doing generative AI with images and videos. But it sounds like Menji, you guys are doing some things with the BIM side of things, like with 3D models as well.
Yeah, we're just testing. I mean, there's a bunch of startups right now that are testing these things, so we've been trying to partner with some of them to see what we can get. It's still sort of more small scale results, like you can get like a room out of it. You can get, I think I like you can get data out of it, and I think that's sort of the
Mhm.
more valuable part rather than the actual 3D model. Whereas like I was talking about this before the show too, was you can get this at this point with like agentic AI, you can build something from just a prompt, right? So one example that I gave was like we have a budget, we have square footage requirements, we have program requirements. It can generate a spreadsheet for you for the most efficient results where with that square footage, with the cost per square foot. You can pull from a different database. You can get the best materials for those spaces based on, a database that tells you, let's say you put in a search that I want everything, it all has to be like eco-friendly, it has to be like native to a region. It can get you that information, put it in a different spreadsheet. And then you can either get an interior designer or you play interior designer and you said, well, I want this space to be a Scandinavian sort of feel. Get me a mood board. It generates a mood board for you. You can plug that into that information with that floor plan and all that data you just get. And then you can get the renderings for it. And so throughout this entire process, all you kind of need is just an architect who kind of knows what's happening and to spot the mistakes. But I think it's quite fascinating and I'm really like curious to see where it goes from now on, like what we can do with that information. So
So it
like
seems
we
like
get
that.
this at like a large scale. Like I think right now it can generate a master plan for you, but it cannot get the nuance of every single building, every single space in that master plan.
So the speed versus accuracy. If you want to go fast, I need it to go fast, but then there's this human element with empathy and judgment that is the accuracy part that has to filter through.
Yeah. And so
Um,
like even though I think like yeah, persistency is going to be great. I think having that persistent environment
yeah.
it's all kind of there. I think like that's why I think we're in like a really exciting point in time with this because I feel like we're just at the horizon of like what's going to happen next. But right now like also at Shop we're trying to figure out different kind of use cases for it beyond just designing a 3D space. And it's almost kind of like having solutions without a problem. And we're trying to find all the problems right now. So like one use case is, and I think some other architecture offices are also exploring this as well, is like, can we put together an entire project from like RFP/competition response all the way to like final images and video and design? So like one case that we explored and some other people have done is like, let's say you're exploring a competition, you want to do this competition, you look at all the jurors who are involved in this process. You can use AI to do a background check on every single person, like
Yep.
find out what they like, what their history is, like who they've been involved with. They build a custom project and a custom response based on those things, and then generate all the assets that you need for it. Like that's one, or like let's say like database like searching. So like Shop is I think it's turning 30 years next year, so there's quite a lot of knowledge there, and that's somewhat like inaccessible. Let's say if you've only been at the office for like 2 years. So I've been there for quite a while now. I've been there for 13 years. So very often people just come to me and be like, hey, like have you heard of this project? Like one of the partners was like, look at this project. I have no idea where to find it. I don't know what the database is, but you can use that to create this sort of like almost like a Wikipedia internally. So like someone can search for this project, get all the information from it, get all the relevant assets for it, and be able to build something from that. So there's a lot of different applications, I think, like for architecture beyond just images. And I know we're getting very far away from the initial question, but like there's a lot, we're trying to find all these different problems right now, and that's sort of very exciting for us.
Nico, what's interesting you? Where we've come in the last 12 months as we wrap up this year? I
I've
think
seen
we were
some,
really at the
I mean,
beginning of people
everybody's
being
talking, sorry. Yeah,
No,
perfect.
well, we were at the beginning of the year, people were already excited about this because it was starting to be predictable. It was like you don't get six fingers on hands anymore. Oh, it's starting to settle down. And then it's just going. Phew. So
I
what
think
we're yeah.
we went from experimentation into actual integration, creating workflows and pipelines, because now we have tools like Nano Banana Pro, which is amazing what you can do with this tool. Every day I'm learning that it can do more than I know and I'm expecting to do. So there is some new tools out there that I think can actually help you to create an actual workflow, a pipeline for a studio environment. But the teams, they have to be aware of how these tools works and decide what works for them or not. For example, you can have a space, as we talked before, and a mood board with furniture. You can use Nano Banana Pro to get the furniture into the space and make decisions about, do I want these furniture? Do I want this kind of light? Do I want this camera? And you can change everything interactively before you start production. This offers speed, because as an artist, without a clear vision, I don't start images. I need to know what I'm making. So if I have these tools and I can play around with the space, the lighting, the mood, the atmosphere, the emotion, this is definitely what I was expecting to happen. And I think it's happened a bit earlier than I was expecting. But
Right.
next year, we're going to see huge improvements on detailing and quality and the speed of these tools. But again, you have to have a vision. You need to know what to expect. I don't want AI to make the image for me. But on the ideation phase and exploration phase, this is where we can actually work amazingly at the moment. And if you have a visual judgment as an artist, as a creator, then you know the next step. And you can then clear vision to create your story, your image, your design, whatever that is. It doesn't matter.
It's
But I've
not,
seen,
one of the things with Enscape is that I really loved it. It seemed to exceed my expectations. When I push a start button, the lighting and the scene and the reflectivity, it's hard for me as even as a designer to, I don't know if you guys have experienced this where you have an idea, you have a concept and you start to model it and then you get underwhelmed by the results. Somehow in your brain it was going to be more satisfying. And I had this occur in Enscape where you get the design that you have in your design file. That's it. That's all you get. And then if you want to go beyond this emotion, you have to spend a lot of time set dressing and creating what Ludo over at Corgan calls the element of time. AI does this so in such a satisfying way. The placement of plants, of books, of magazines, of clutter. And so is the future of this, does Enscape and AI merge where you have your real environment that's in your design file, but that it's just persistently, it's just giving you a persistent metaphor of a more complete inhabitable space so that you don't have to spend time set dressing. Like we have thousands of assets for set dressing, but then I have to decide where does the book go on the shelf and where does the magazine and where do the plants go and all of this like it- do what I don't know that we're going to have to do this kind of task manually anymore until you get to
no,
the very end and then someone with extreme judgment says no, the magazine goes that like someone would actually come into a physical space and go, this is where the books, this is where the plants, this is the set dressing. Are we just, does AI and does Enscape and AI merge, Bill? Like sometimes I can see the view in Enscape based on what's in the design file. And then if I move the slider, I can see the AI enhanced version with persistent clutter and persistent entourage.
Yeah. So I think you should still be in control of what the AI is doing. And I think you're the orchestrator, like where the magazine goes or the book on the shelf. Like you're directing AI what to do, but you can also tell it like how much creative freedom you want it to have. So you could say, well, you choose where to put the book at. Like I don't care if it's
Sure.
on the bookshelf or is it on the nightstand. Like, and so like the point is that you should still be in control of telling it what you want the outcome to be, but this is where the AI is so incredible and the reasoning is the big piece. So like that's where AI is different than anything else that's ever existed, is that all other tools have been very prescriptive. Like I tell you to do a task, you do this task. But with AI, it now can reason like, well, is it the most optimal place to put the book on the bookshelf? Or is it better to put it on the nightstand? Because you sleep by the nightstand every night, you go to bed there. That seems like a more optimal place to put it. And so these kinds of like logics persist into architecture where you could start going, well, is, the bathroom supposed to be next to the conference rooms or by the admin desk? Or, how do we optimize the daylighting, and like how do you optimize the most amount of coverage for the project with the least amount of documentation, back to our earlier conversation of like construction documents. So like that's where the AI technology is much, much different than anything else that's ever existed, is based on the reasoning that it's able to do. And it's getting, better and better with every iteration of that.
How do we, Mengi, what we were talking about before the show is, or my framing is that it's easy to do anything in AI and it's hard to do something. And so how do we use these tools when you want more specificity? I don't want any piece of furniture. I want these particular pieces of furniture, and I want things that are actually available to buy, to put in your project. How do we use it in this kind of, yes, I want you to do anything, but for this, I want you to do something very specific. Is there a way to do this and to kind of bridge the gap?
Yeah, so okay, this sounds like really unrelated, but yesterday I had to work with the Fab Lab to build a model of a Formula One steward. So someone who's basically like on the racetrack, helping with
Yeah,
things,
yeah, yeah.
in the race. So, and this was a request for a partner's personal projects. Because he has all these race cars and he wants to have very specific entourage for it. And so what we've been using more and more often, I think it's gotten to a point where it's actually a critical part of our workflow, is AI 3D model generation. So there's a lot of tools out
For
there
a
that are
track
doing this
steward,
right now. Huh?
for a
Sorry.
track steward.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So you have like these tools right now where you can actually generate like hyper specific results, right? And so the
Right.
traditional example is you generate an image of like and then you put a person in there by adding a prompt, right? But what we've found that's been really useful for these 3D model generation tools is that you still have a lot of creative control because you can put that model in a scene, right? And you can spin around and, build that custom scene. You can take that model, you can bring it into real-time software, right? So like anything from like Enscape to Vantage to, let's say, like Unreal Engine, like things like this, where you can actually start to rig and animate these things, like let's say a person, a very specific person. Or this example that I just gave, where now you can communicate with people who are doing fabrication and 3D print this exact model. And so like where we found this to be useful is one, like I said before, with community engagement, client engagement, where let's say you have a very like a hyper specific client that you're working with, and you want to show this specific type of person for this specific program, right? And so like you start to get away with having something that feels generic, and you have something where you speak a very specific message to your client, which is usually, I've done the research, I understand you, I know what you're going for, like we can do this together. And the other thing is also with furniture, right? So like it's definitely helped us save a lot of time by not having to model every single piece of furniture or hunt down a library somewhere on the internet, or even like, let's say, buy a model for $200, right? So um, we've been able to build specific furniture entourage, make sure it's curated to the scene. And so that's sort of the thing that we like to do, where it's like you're building these sort of hyper specific experiences for people. And it's not
Right.
just an image where like, basically AI can do everything, but you can start inserting these into like these real-time experiences. And I think that's, Phil, where you were coming from about like Enscape and having like interactivity. And we've been doing more and more real time at Shop because it's sort of, I think we saw kind of AI coming in 2, 3 years ago and seeing that maybe we need to start pivoting in a different direction. And not necessarily a different direction out of necessity, but a different direction as in this is now open to us to explore, right? So we started having all these real-time tools like Vantage, where it's like we can give the client and our audience like a completely different experience. And like speaking back to making something that relates to people, especially with the younger audience, people who are doing a lot of video gaming, who understand interactive experiences, people who don't necessarily have a computer. So with things like pixel streaming, we can just port this onto a
Right.
phone or an iPad, or a laptop without needing necessarily like heavy computational power. And someone can walk through a project, And like I think that's where like AI can really bridge that gap, is like providing these sort of things that like can create hyper specificity for us.
Yeah, the 3D modeling, how we've kind of gone from 2D CAD to 3D modeling, it seems very transactional that we're really just using the 3D model to create persistence for the computer to visualize. Why do I need an underlying particular piece of furniture as a component in Revit? Why can't I just drag an image into my project and it builds what appears to be persistent geometry? Because at the end of the day, it's not really geometry. It's nothing in the computer we can touch. It's flat on a screen. I just need to be able to navigate and explore it and have that geometry behave predictably when I move around. I don't want it to keep facing me. I expect it to stay still. So, Bill, why are we building, for 20 years built components and assets as a transaction to get the computer to understand what something is so it can be represented and counted and scheduled in plan section elevation, renderings. But how far are we away from just being able to drag an image into a project and it doesn't really build geometry, it just represents it in a way that we understand as humans? Oh, that's a chair on the floor. Like, why
Yeah.
are we like, are we just getting to the point where we're not going to have to do these transactional things, but we'll still get persistence and efficiency?
Totally. Yeah. So that was the example I was showing earlier with like that floor plan. Like we have this colored floor plan and you can bring something into that AI and say, okay, now create a 3D representation of that. And it does persist. So I think that's very much where it's going. And with the advent of tools like Nano Banana, like it's creating workflows that have not existed before, which is incredible. Like that is one of the reasons like we're latching onto that technology and bringing it inside of Veras, because those are workflows that we have not seen before, and it opens up way more and new possibilities where you can say, well, create an elevation from this perspective or change this to look like, this kind of diagram. Those kinds of things have not existed before, and that is definitely where we're going with that kind of persistence that you're talking about, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that seems like a real conceptual shift where if I don't have to build, we have all of these ways of mitigating content and assets and persistence during design. I have to go to Revit City, or I have to go to the SketchUp warehouse, or I go to some Revit library online in order to get the thing in the project so that it can be rendered so that I can give feedback to the client. But if we're talking about entering a space where we no longer have to do this transactional thing to get to a satisfying image or result that communicates to the client, that's a real shift in how we
Yeah.
work. Like, we're dragging images and pieces of fabric. We could drag a representation of a floor finish into a project and have it display on the floor.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, so I did this talk in 2016 called The Future of BIM is Not BIM, and it's coming faster than you think. And I kind of felt like I had a sense of like where things were going in 2016. Like, oh, it's going to be data-driven design. We're going to use the information to optimize the models, et cetera, et cetera. And then this like AI stuff came out, and I was like, I have no idea where the heck this train is going. Like, this is crazy. Like, the tech is like so alien to me. Like, it was so weird. And like, I started feeling like I got a handle on it in the last few years, like as I started to use Stable Diffusion and some of these other LLMs. And then something like Nano Banana comes out, and then I'm just like, oh my God, it feels like it's like 2022 again. It feels like so alien to me, just where I'm like, this tech is so weird and but powerful. Like I didn't expect this. And so I think it's like we could kind of talk about like where we think we're at and where we think we're going. But like for me personally, at least my journey and my naivety, I'm like, oh, I know where we're going. And then I'm like, I have no idea where the hell we're going. Like this is totally different. And so
It's easy
I
for us
think
to predict future behavior based on past precedents, right?
yes. Or to think we can. That's my point. Is like I thought I
But now,
could.
how we don't have a framework to predict where we're going. Like, why do I
Yeah.
need BIM if I have a room full of interns that know how to use AutoCAD so quickly that they can just do everything in AutoCAD? Well, why do I need Revit? Okay, why do I need AutoCAD? Why am I going to have a conversation with a computer to do this? In a way, that part of it still feels like I still love to sketch. And that's why
Yeah.
early on when I saw Veras, I'm like, oh, Veras is for people, Enscape's for people that don't know how to render, and Veras is for people that don't know how to model. Because you can
Yeah.
start with a sketch. So or the idea of being able to sketch and interact with a computer, if I could sketch and in real time see my sketch and see something physical and measured and dimensioned and rendered, we're kind of going back to first practices.
Yeah. Well, it's
Like this
Dominguez
doesn't feel
or
like
like
we're going forward. It feels like we're going, oh, finally I can do what I used to do with my pencil. But it maintains persistence in plan sections and elevations. Nico? I mean, do you think
Well,
this is, are we returning to first practices in a way with AI? It's not like a new thing. It's like, oh, I used to be able to sketch and get a rendering. Now I can sketch and make a rendering. But there's
well,
more underlying.
we'll definitely need those skills. But let me add something before about Enscape and AI before I jump to this question. I think also I love what Maggie said, but also now we have AI material generator, which I think was an amazing feature this year, and it's coming to Enscape. I think early next year. Basically, you have a texture or an image, and you're getting a PBR material. That is a game changer for architects and designers. And most of my clients may send me images and say, Nikos, can we use this fabric or this carpet or this wall material? Now you can use AI to generate it for you. It's physical correct. And with one click solution, you have it in V-Ray, Corona, it's coming to Enscape. And other amazing thing is that is the AI mood maps that Chaos is developing. It's also coming to Enscape, where you have a reference of a dusk and you have a daylight scene, and then automatically matches and change the lighting into the scene, into the reference. So all these kind of new workflows I'm obsessed about because it's offered me flexibility. And since you talk about AI and Enscape, this is cool things that are happening and they're coming your way. I don't use Enscape, but I know they're coming and they're very powerful.
How, is this happening at Shop as well, Menu, where you guys are not just using AI to imagine, but also to specify and to be very specific to designate a particular item, a particular element? You talked about using this for something really obscure, like like a
On
course,
my right, yeah,
somebody on
my
a race
restart.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you just do that in post?
Well, this case, we had to build a physical model of it. So,
Okay.
so I think like, for us, it's like it really is a tool. Like I said, like, we want to just make sure that we can use it across all the different specializations within the office to build that specificity. So I feel like I have talked quite a bit about, having the race car driver or like the piece of furniture or like the specific community that we're talking to. And we're trying to do this also. I briefly mentioned it. I also mentioned in the chat that for architecture at least, like we're using it as a way to not only comb through our databases internally, but also all the databases that are available out there, specifically for um, environmental studies, for selecting the right material. We've been partnering with the Grace Foundation to understand, like labor and like, labor costs in terms of like, let's say you have a piece of wood, like what was the sort of like process of labor throughout that the life of that material, right? So was there any like slave labor involved in any of these things? And
Hmm.
so like there are databases out there that are collecting all this information, and it's gotten powerful enough with AI search and things like that where we can be like, look, we're working in a specific environment in a specific country. We need to make sure that we're following all these different building codes. We want to make sure that the materials are no like conflict from like zones of conflict or sustainable, right? And so like all these different things allow us to find something that's hyper specific in that use case as well. So I like, we talk a lot about image making and how it makes things easier for image making. I think it's also applying to general knowledge levels, like in other fields of architecture and in construction and engineering. One other thing that I want to speak to, I think that like Nico's brought up with all these features that are coming to Enscape is that I don't know if AI necessarily offers someone of the highest level of craft something super powerful and new, but I know it offers a lot of opportunities for people starting out and for people who are not necessarily invested in, let's say, a professional education in architecture or in digital media, but it raises everybody's level, so that someone who's starting out maybe now has the same tools to have communication with the client as someone who's been in the industry for 10 years. And so it kind of levels out that playing field. And I think that's sort of the thing that I look forward to the most, is that we can all start talking on the same level.
Where do you see the education environments embracing this, or are they still kind of confused with, oh no, it makes it too easy?
I
And
think they're trying to figure out how to implement this. And I think, like, obviously it's really hard to teach because, and I've talked to several professors, like, in the New York area, and it's just really hard to teach because the changes are coming daily, right? Like, from one week to another, it's different. The way we're using AI tools 6 months ago is not how we're using it today. So it's really hard to teach something and be one step ahead of your students when everything is changing daily. But I think, like, one thing that's really important is we need to figure out how to continue to teach critical thinking, and to have students explore and be curious and find ways of doing things. So, like, AI again is just a tool, it's just one tool. Even within AI, we call it AI as a sort of bubble term, but there's hundreds of programs, hundreds of startups out there right now who are doing very different things. And I think it's that critical thinking that's going to allow people to string together, this is the best tool for this use case, right? I know in programming, I know in other industries right now for interviews and such, like, they're getting people back. You come into the interview, you solve this basic problem like in front of us, right? And so maybe it's going to be that, like, in education as well. Like, we might be going back to, like, writing essays with, like, paper and pencil, like, in the classroom, like, no laptops, right? And it's kind of funny because we're almost regressing in a way to prove that we're moving towards the
that we're
future.
human.
But I think, like, some things maybe just don't change. Like, we still have to maybe teach hand drawing. We still have to have, like, classes where people learn how to sketch. We still might have fabrication classes where people understand how to put things together and what material works best for another thing. And you need this sort of core set of educational skills in order to understand what AI is doing for you. And so there are certain things that are going to be persistent in education, and I think there are other things where professors are going to have to understand how to introduce this technology to their students. Because if they're not introducing it, the students are going to find it by themselves.
Yeah, I don't know if professors are, as part of the general population, are they any more curious than the rest of the population? It's not going to come from the existing professors. It's going to come from something else. It's if the value of education is instilling rigor and judgment um, and to learn how to be accountable and more accountable for decisions, then it seems like AI can still fit in with this. You're just asking, okay, that's your amazing image. Now follow through it. Now build a physical model. Now build a digital model.
Right,
Now,
right. And I like in school, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like in
no, no,
school,
no, I'm
we
just
were
trying to,
always doing, I felt like the renderings, like, in a traditional architecture program, was like the very last thing you did. Like, speaking, Bill, of, like, the render slave situation, like, we were so happy when we would be, like, the last studio in the year to present, because that means you can enslave every single other computer, like, in the year to, like, run your final animation, and you will have a better animation than everyone else. But
right.
with, like, these tools now, it's like you don't have to wait until the last minute. Like, right, you can build those, like, renderings and animations much earlier in the process. So, like, I'm trying to be optimistic. I think, like, these tools will not replace our current way of thinking necessarily, but it'll enhance it. It'll make things faster. It'll bring people up to date faster. It's like, like when when smartphones came out, suddenly everybody had a computer in their pocket, right? And they were able to do much more with it. And I think AI is a tool. It'll allow everybody to do more. It might not necessarily be the correct thing or the right thing or the
Right.
best thing, but it will exist quicker and faster.
If you wish to be accountable, you can take on more risk. You can take on more accountability. I think but if you just want to use it to go fast and check the boxes, I
Yeah,
don't know.
like if you have that final studio review and you have beautiful renderings, but like everything is wrong. Someone hopefully will catch that and you will still probably not get a very good grade, I think.
Yeah, that would be bad. Imagine amazing renderings and you still go, yeah, you don't know why this is good or bad. You haven't poured over it enough. You haven't wrestled.
Yeah.
There is something about going slow and wrestling with it and building physical models. And as you mentioned, having to get the glue just right. Ah,
Right. And like problem solving, I mean, I think understanding that there is a problem to be solved. That's part of critical thinking is understanding that like this isn't the final result. Like you have to be able to spot these problems in that part. So
Nico, what over the last year, Nico, what have you seen based on the precedence of what you've seen? Where do you think we're going in a unique way? And to Bill's point, like how do we even build a framework for this if we don't have precedence?
First, I think we have to use all these tools wisely, and I totally agree about critical thinking. There is so many tools going out, and I think it's time to stop investigating and experimenting with every new tool. I think it's time to invest and go deeper in specific tools that do the job. So let's say you're doing image to video. Find the tool that you like and stick to it, because otherwise you're going to be always fighting and waiting for the next update and the next big thing. I think we're now in position to forget about why we start making anyway. So my passion is to tell stories and make stuff. So I need to focus on that as well. And there is so many things happening on my feed every day about Clink 2.7, Veras 3.1, and VO 3.1, Runway 4.5. I think we're in a position that we have to find the tools that work for us and stick to them. Otherwise, we're going to get lost. There is so many noise out there. There's exactly distraction. So we are in a position that we have to create our own workflow, whatever works for every person, find the tools, stick to them, because they're going to get better, all of them. But at this time, everybody's fighting between them to see who's going to bring the new feature out. And that's not for us. As a creator, that's not my job. I need to find my tools, yes, master those tools, and that's it. Because next year is going to be even crazier. I cannot imagine how many new tools coming out every month. I think more than 1,000 every single month. So I think that's my advice to
Are there
people.
really 1,000, or is it just wrappers based
Most of
on
them, they're just crap. Okay. It's just
Okay.
noise. That's what I mean. We have to stick to the ones we trust and keep building our knowledge around it, because otherwise this noise is going to be distraction. You're going to lose your mind. I'm telling you, it's getting
Right.
crazy out there. It's getting crazy. And that's what gets me worried. We need to use those tools wisely and think about how to integrate them for whatever need is that you need to integrate.
So companies being curious is good. Use a couple of them, but commit. Don't keep
Commit.
jumping around. Because by the
Exactly.
time I've even opened up the latest version of something that someone, hey, have you seen this? And they text me something, it's already shifted again. And I feel like I'm getting diminished returns. I should just keep waiting and not do anything until things settle down, but they're not settling down.
Yes, and when you say commit, go to meetups. Let's say you like Runway. Okay, is Runway doing meetups? Go to these meetups. Meet other creators using Runway. If there is a live webinar, follow that webinar. If you have a feature request, talk to them. So go deep, because otherwise you will never have what you need. When I started using Corona from V-Ray, I never stopped going to every event around the world and see the developers live and getting the contact so I can call them and say, what about this? What about that? It's still the same process, but now we're using AI tools. But there is a company behind the scenes. So go deep, follow that company online, on site, whatever is possible.
Manny, if everyone can have these tools, then why should I work with Shop?
Because they're the unique solutions. I mean, look, they're
Nico
creative
secretly works for
minds.
Shop. I like this. Yeah, I think it's just like you need a level of, I think, again, like people who understand problem solving and have critical thinking and be able
Mm,
to build, because we always value ourselves in building a bespoke solution
yeah.
for each client, right? And so like AI right now it's almost like sort of like an aggregation tool in a sense, like it takes everything that's out there and it kind of rewraps it and turns it into this weird collage and spits it back at you, right? And so like I would say what Shop was doing when I first started, back in the day with Barclays Center is not what we're doing now, right? And I think Shop is diverse in the fact that there's so many different people with different sorts of design skills that can bring you different solutions, right? And I think AI is not quite there yet. Like, again, it's just a tool, like Nico said, and I think it's something we like try to keep in mind that there's so much out there, but we need to make that judgment to say, okay, like this is where I stop, or like this is what, like I will keep my eye out on these things, but like I can provide you,
Yeah.
I can pick that best tool and provide it for you. So I think like part of what we're doing as architects and also as just people in general dealing with AI is we're basically stewards, right? To make sure that like there's some sort of guidance to kind of point you in the right direction. Because like let's say a client is like, oh, I've been hearing so much about like these 20 tools, right? Like, and then we can say, well, this is the best, this is the one that we've worked with, and this is the best one to go with, and we can help you on that process, right? So, and at the end of the day, we do buildings and AI can't build buildings quite yet. You know, maybe robots will at some point, but you still kind of need that human hand there to hold you and to pull you along for that.
But it sounds like the value of AI is not AI. The value the value of Shop is not because they have AI or electricity or computers. It's because you have judgment. And so you're just using these tools to get to the point of where you make a decision, and that the ability that you guys make, the ability you guys have to make bespoke decisions for the client is what's the value. It's not
Right.
the
And I mean, like designers, I think, you know, we're all in a way sort of like artists, right? And, you know, everybody as individuals and as an office, like we try to bring specific visions, right, to you. And even with AI now, you still have to prompt AI to build that thing. But yeah, I don't think it's quite there yet. It'll be exciting to, you know, as I think Bill mentioned earlier, like have AI as sort of this co-pilot rather than, you know, just having tools that we had to manually mess with.
Yeah, right now it's just that transaction. I still have to push the button. I'm not having that conversation. I'll get It used to annoy me in Star Trek that they would have to ask the computer to do things and then ask the computer to do something else. I'm like, why don't you just, the computer should just save the ship, stop making me ask questions. But here we are. I'm like, oh, now I understand, because if you don't ask the right question, the computer will do something stupid. You can't just leave it on its own. It sounds like you guys at Shop, the value that you guys have is the ability to say no. You have all of these AI iterations, you have all of this emotional vectors, you have all of these images, all the stuff that you can do, but your value is going, no, all of this, no, we only want to do this. This is the way forward. And
Right.
that's
And
not
I think
the
like
thing.
I just want to add on to what Nikos was saying because I do think and what you're saying too is there's importance in sticking with your guns in a sense. Like, you know, what we do now is also, I guess, an evolution of the like the sort of office company DNA over time, right? It's
The culture,
never
sure.
it's we don't change. I think we add, right? And I think it's the same thing with these AI tools. It's you add what is necessary to make your work better, right? And better can mean different things. It could be faster, more efficient. But at the same time, I think it's still kind of important, like to be aware of the noise, right?
Mm.
You don't necessarily have to touch every single tool and spend like, you know, days like messing with all of this stuff because someone is doing that. And it's I think like a good metaphor might be with like contemporary art and let's say classic, like classics, right? Like let's say the Mona Lisa, right? You go to a contemporary art museum and there's so much noise out there. And you don't know what's going to be that next masterpiece because everyone is doing something different and it's all very creative and it's a lot of noise. But then, you know, you have these classics that have been vetted over time by critics, by, you know, the public, by all these sources. And then you have this tool that works. So, in a sense, like we're kind of just being in the zeitgeist and being aware of what's around us. But over time, things will be refined, things will like come out of the fray and like one will survive, you know, like you're already seeing issues with all these different AI companies, like OpenAI is, you know, maybe having some problems, right? So it's just like we're gonna see in 6 months to a year like where we end up. So it's good to be aware of what's going on, but you don't necessarily need to engage with it day to day.
No,
Uh,
so avoiding the distractions, not being easily distracted is important, to be discerning, to have judgment.
Yeah.
That's
I want to comment. Oh, go
nothing's
ahead, Phil.
changed.
Yeah. I want to comment on that really quick, like your earlier question of like, okay, if these tools make it such that all of it's democratized, everyone has access to AI, et cetera, why would you hire a shop architect? Well, like I could go to the store and I can buy a hammer, or if I want to change the oil in my car, I can go get like an oil filter wrench and all of those things. Like those things are accessible to me, but I still go to a mechanic because they're a subject matter expert in those tools. And so like I would go to shop because, okay, you have this experience, you have the knowledge, you're the subject matter expert, you know how to leverage the tools to optimize it to create the most valuable output and result for me as a client or a customer. So I think the tools are still just tools. You know, it's how you leverage the tools and how Danico's earlier comment of like mastering your craft, like that's something that you're really, you know, been trying to do. I think that's something that if you take the tool plus, you know, the crafter, the person that's the expert in that, the subject matter expert, that's where you get the value add and why you would still hire an architect to leverage those tools.
Yeah, I expect if I could afford it, the reason customers go to shop is because they have a polite, memorable experience. Otherwise, they just get a building. And buildings are commodities. But if you want a polite experience, a unique journey, a memory of something that is compelling and meaningful, then you go to shop.
Right. It's also about, I guess, like, like I think it's important that with all of these things, that we have a human touch, right? And like, I
Mhm.
think it's a side note a bit, but like, Nikos and I have been involved in sort of the 3D Viz community for a long time. And it's really important to like I remember like we were talking about this yesterday too, like meeting people for the first time that like you've known for a long time and
Mm.
building human connections and having that like you don't know how much that actually affects what you think of something, right? And like let's say it's for the building, it might not be shop, it might be a different office. Your sort of
Right.
experience of working with these people is going to shape how you feel about like this company or the final product that they've given you. And it's the same for like Viz Studios. Like we also outsource quite a bit. And it's really fun to always like meet all these people. And then you kind of like go to a few because you like working with them and you have like a nice experience and like they do something extra that's like a bit unexpected. And it's creating that sort of human connection. And AI can't do that yet. So maybe in the future when there's like AI powered robot companions, maybe it'll change. But right now it can't do that yet. And I think that's a really important thing, right?
In terms of the actual tools that you use, someone asked the question of what kinds of tools do you use? Like specifically menu.
This is a very general question.
No, specifically
Maybe.
like image to 3D. What do you
Image to
like?
3D.
Oh, I think I answered that one already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I answered a few. We're using Trippo a lot these days. It used to be kind of potato garbage. But they just implemented Nano Banana like a few weeks ago, and it's gotten a lot better. But
Mm.
we're still bringing the meshes in and doing some like manual work to remesh it and to fix it up and make the faces look like faces. But it's gotten good enough, right? It's good enough for images, I think. For animations, if it's quite far away, it's good enough for 1:35 scale 3D prints. It's not good enough for, let's say, like Unreal Engine when you're moving really close to a person yet. Like for those, we're still using more custom assets, but it's
Right.
fulfilled a need that we always had, like, getting custom assets, but it's something that again, this is where the judgment comes in. We're like, it's not good enough to be close up to something yet, but you could put it in a distance and it works, right? And so we have to figure out all these tips and tricks to make it work, but right now that's been the one we're using the most.
Bill, what do you see specifically that you guys are working? Can you share things that you're working on right now in terms of one of the things that AI gets me to a point and then I have to manually interact with my design file to get the results that I can see over here into over here. There's nothing that's connecting it. Where there's all these AI tools, they all do amazing things, but it still stops and then I have to manually make the leap. I would like to
Yeah.
be able to just take things from the result and go, yes, I would like that in my design file.
Yeah, we're trying to empower and enable you as a designer to be able to do those things. So again, we're trying to hit this control layer of where you're still driving the output of the AI. And so a big piece of what we're working on right now is we're integrating Nano Banana inside of Veras, so giving you more
Mhm.
control, more persistency. We're working on automating construction documents using LLM. So like you can prompt Revit and say, hey, create a floor plan of levels 1 through 10 and dimension all the walls to finish face of stud, and then tag all my doors and windows. And then the AI will go through, and automate all of those tasks for you. So we're trying to get past just the visualization piece, though there's some incredible magic around that space. But we're starting to try to get touch other parts of the project that are more tangible that we can go, okay, now I got a pretty picture. Now what? Like, what do I do with this? So we're trying to start hitting on other facets of the overall project lifecycle to help add value, empower architects, and be able to automate quicker with these tools.
Are we at an inflection point? I'll use a metaphor of disco to punk rock. So there was all of this predictability in music through the 60s, amazing, and 70s, and then disco came along and it just kind of got interesting, but not interesting for a while. And then all of a sudden you had punk rock explode on the scenes where it was not predictable, it was not polished, it was not overly produced, but there was this raw energy that just, and no one saw it coming. And I don't know if we're at this point with AI where it's kind of like this punk rock moment. We've had 20 to 30 years of predictable build the CAD file, build the BIM file, put the geometry in it, get the predictable stuff. And I don't know I don't know that we can keep evolving more drawings unless there's this other thing that's going to happen that's just like you have to stop doing it that way, and punk rock is going to take over for a while. So that, and in specific with regard to Revit and BIM tools, it's like, well, it was 40 sheets, now it's 400. Maybe we need 4,000, or are we just going to have to? There's going to be a break where the data is, we're just interacting with the data in a way that gives us answers as we need them, and the sheets are there, but they're just when we ask for them. It's not something that we have to manually assemble. We have to manually plan sections, elevations, details. I don't know that we can keep going the way we've been going. We've had this kind of transactional way of doing things, and it seems like it's at a point of diminished returns. We can't evolve where we are. We're going to have to start over somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think the next phase, so to answer your question, I think the AI and tools like Nano Banana is your punk rock. Like that's where it comes out of left field and you're like, what the heck? Like you can do what with this thing? Like
Right.
to use your analogy, like it's that different. And so I
Yeah,
think
punk
that's why
rock
we're
is not
trying.
the evolution of disco. It was like disco sucks. We're going this way. And
Exactly.
what I'm seeing, like out of the blue, someone said, "Have you guys seen Marble World Labs?" I'm like, "Oh no, let me look." Oh my gosh, it's persistent Gaussian splats.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like there was a metaphor to get me there. There wasn't a carriage and a horseless carriage and then an automobile. And then there was Marble World Labs. And I could see the evolution. It was like, this is out of nothing, this persistent environment that you could explore. So I don't know how we're going to, like, we're just going to have to, is this just a complete break of what we've been doing and it's going to be a new thing?
So I think what's first, yes, we're gonna have what we're experiencing right now. But then I think this next phase, which we've touched on it, but we haven't seen this really mainstream, is the agentic AI piece. So you orchestrating your project and saying, okay, I want 10 different perspectives of my project. I want them animated. I want you to also create 20 animations of those. I also want you to go through and I want you to document all of the project. It's going to start to um, connect all these different pieces of the project lifecycle that we all do as architects, and then going to be the orchestrator of all these different pieces. And then that's where and I know like agentic AI has become the new buzzword this year. Like it's like the AI of 3 years ago. But
Explain it
once
to me
it's,
like I'm a Labrador, a 60-year
yeah,
old Labrador,
yeah,
agentic AI. How would you frame that?
agentic, it's going to be your workforce. It's going to be your team, you're going to be the project manager, and then you're going to have your team of designers and interns and architects, and being able to leverage it as a workforce on your behalf. So you're going to be able to have a subscription to your AI rendering intern, and then that intern is going to
Okay.
be able
I'm
to
still
talk.
opening an application. That's kind of a thing I do now anyway. When I want to do a thing,
Yeah,
I double click a thing.
yeah. And so you're still very much in that driver's seat, but you're going to be asking all these different specialists to connect the dots. Like rather than just doing one task, you're going to be able to do 10 tasks in one shot. And it's going to create dashboards for you and it's going to give you the results. And so like it's going to connect all these. So an analogy, like we have this tool called Glyph, okay? And Glyph, for those that don't know it, it does different tasks. Like you can create floor plans, you can do another task that creates dimensions, you can do another task that creates sheets, you can do another task that packs those views onto sheets. But then you could do all of those tasks together in what we call a bundle. You run the bundle, it does all those tasks together, okay? The AI is going to be very similar, that you're going to have all these different tasks of it creating dashboards and creating pictures and creating videos, but then you'll be able to streamline all these different tasks into one macro task of where you're going to go, okay, do these 10 things and give me the results back in an hour. And it's going to come back and have all of those. That's where we're going to be in the next year to 2 years, like 100%. Like that's where it's going to be going
I
with
don't
this
even know why they have
agentic
to
AI.
ask for them. Why don't they'll just happen in the background?
What's
Like
that?
why I don't even know why I'd have to ask to push the button to get dimensions. Shouldn't it
Well,
just
you
be
have to you're gonna
you
because
just
you
do
still
the
want to be
thing
in
in
the
the
driver's
background?
seat. Yeah, if
Okay.
that's what you want. Yeah, because you still want to be in the driver's seat. Like you still wanted to tell it to do the dimensions or not, or you set up the rules such that it does the dimensions on every project for you, or it creates the animation on every project for you. So
No,
you
how we train AI to me, I don't, maybe that's a whole nother discussion, but the way we set up the rules still seems very transactional, where with an intern, I would sit down and go, okay, let's on this sheet in this half of this detail, I want you to detail that based on what we've done before in other projects, and then come back and see me. And then when they finish, go, okay, well, half of that is really good and part of it's not. So finish the other half of the detail, but don't do it like this, do it like this. And when they're done with that, then we go to the quarter sheet and the half sheet. Okay, now finish the sheet. Okay, now do another sheet. And so there's this kind of stop and go where one of the things I feel with AI, it just does everything. And then you go, oh, I don't know if it's done. Like, how do we work with it in a way where it's not so either or all or nothing, but we prompt it in pieces and get some feedback and then go, okay, I like this, but I don't like this. Keep going a little bit more. So it's not so transactional, which I feel like is where we're at now. It's a transaction, it's not a conversation. And that's just where it is. I mean, I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, we're going towards iterative AI, like so very similar to like ChatGPT or Grok or any of these other LLMs. It's iterative, right? Like you ask it for a result and you go, ah, not quite right. Give it to me in a table format. And then it gives you in a
Okay.
table format. Okay, now add these other two columns and then add this multiplier. And then Grok or ChatGPT goes through. So it's like you're talking about this iterative process, Phil. I think that is where a lot of these tools are now permeating into architecture, where Nano Banana can give me a floor plan, and then inside of Veras, I can say, okay, but now also give me a 3D perspective of this and make the chairs brown leather and make the lighting softer. It is that now, like that's where this next phase is with the incorporation of Nano Banana inside Veras or these LLMs inside of Glyph, and what at least in what we're doing, but then other technologies, of course, that other people are using. It is that iterative process that you're talking about that is valuable 100%.
So, Mengi, when you guys are working, what is the, like, describe the process of where you get all of this feedback, all of these assets from an AI task, and then where you guys actually, how do you actually discuss the results? Are you in a conference room with images? Are there TV screens? How do you guys actually start to go through things and impose judgment on the output?
Well, actually, right now we're not. I mean, the thing is, like, this is all still in development, right? Like, and we're not at a point right now where our processes as a company are AI driven. Um, so it is still very much like people working together in tools, traditional
Right.
tools like Revit, with model making, with renderings, with hand drawings. We actually have an illustrator on board who does hand sketches and works with you while you're like you're describing the idea, which is sort of like what AI is replacing. But I think we're still very much early in the process. And like I was talking about earlier with what Nikos was saying too, was just that we're very aware of what's happening around us, right? And let's say there's 100 tools right now, and we're maybe implementing two of these. And then these two tools are not necessarily replacing our entire workflow. We're kind of testing it to see what direction it goes in. And
Right.
maybe at some point it will replace it, but maybe not fully, right? Like, we still have hand drawings on board. We're still doing this kind of stuff. We're still doing traditional model making from scratch without 3D prints, right? People in the real world still ride horses when we have cars. But maybe it's going to be a different relationship in the future. And I think like that's why I think we're kind of at the like precipice right now of what this punk rock thing is going to do to all of these industries. And like obviously we can't future proof it, but we're just trying to like diversify what we can do. So like, all the interaction tools are really good, like talking to different industries about sort of the same problems is really good, because this is again not just affecting Viz. I mean, Viz is just such a small part of who it's affecting. Like
Right.
I think, like ad agencies, media, like all of these companies are kind of dealing with the same thing on a much larger scale. But like going back to the question, yeah, I think we're just evaluating all these tools on a day-to-day basis with a lot of critical judgment, And as soon as we
From the
see
seniors all the way into
from
the
the
interns.
seniors, right? And like, when we're designing, we just tell people like, hey, this is available, but like you shouldn't rely on these as a crutch, right? You should still be able to know how to design and how to use all these other tools that are out there. And I think going back to like the very beginning, it's like how much time do you invest in like, let's say AI prompting? It's like one, if there's a deadline, but the other is if you just see it's not working, right? And you're going to spend way more time trying to fix a problem that someone else is going to solve in 2 months.
Hmm.
So just go to the traditional solution, I think, in this case. So, like, let's say with these 3D people, like potato faces, okay, that's not going to work. We're just going to remodel that, right?
Right, right, right.
And so I think, especially with these sort of like AI hallucinations, people pick it up very quickly, especially if you're in a room with professionals, with other architects. Like, we did the whole like agentic generation through Banana Pro, where we generated this floor plan. And then immediately someone was like, that bed's in the wrong place, right? And then, so it's at a point right now where we can still make these critical judgments. I don't know how it's going to go in the future. I don't have an answer. I think nobody does at this point, but we just have to be very aware of what directions it's all going in.
Yeah, Nico, you're nodding your head in agreement. Why do you like this kind of approach?
Oh, actually, I think that's the best approach. And I think what the shop doing, it's by far what they should be doing, being aware of what's out there and deciding what's going to go into live production. It's the only way to move forward. Otherwise, again, you're going to get lost. I mean, I'm working with big clients as well. A couple of months ago, I worked with Zaha Hadid, and I need to protect them. I need to make sure that the tools I'm going to suggest them, they're going to be the right for them. So I'm testing tools, but I need to make sure that the tools, they're not going to use images of Zaha for training, right? So
Right.
it becomes sensitive. You need to always know what to do and how to do it. So my job is to find those tools, spend time understanding how they work, master the tools, and then offer them back to my clients, but make sure that it's the right solution for them. So we do bespoke training based on the needs of the client, because otherwise, if I make a small, like a wrong judgment, it will come back to me. I don't want Zaha or any big client uploading images to a wrong AI solution. So of course, I'm not working with architect. I mean, I'm offering training, but it's not exactly what SOP doing. I'm an architect as well, but I changed completely my career. But I need to be aware of these things as well. I need to know what's happening out there and focus on the solutions I'm offering to my clients, because it becomes sensitive after a while.
Yeah, but it sounds like the angst of people saying, "Oh, this is going to take away jobs. It's going to ruin creativity." It's an overreaction to any new technology. This happens with, it happened with machines that make shoes. It happened with the steam engine. That's going to ruin.
There
It
is
sounds like what you guys are saying is, oh, these tools are used in conjunction with people who have judgment to make decisions in the interest of the client. And that's a really complex thing. You can't
Yeah.
automate a good client experience. So if business people are stressed out about AI and how it's going to take away their judgment, you guys are saying this is absolutely not the case. Judgment is still the last most important critical
Totally,
piece.
totally. We did a workshop in Dubai with Chaos, and I was surprised that most of the people that came to the workshop with fear, like, is this for me? Like, what is these tools? And I asked, how many tools you guys using? And most of the people they didn't use anything, and I was surprised because And after the workshop, everybody was like, "Oh my God, we're missing out. Almost it's too late. The train is
Yeah.
going fast.
No,
Why
that's
would
okay.
we
There'll be
buy?"
another agent next week. They can start with that one.
Definitely. But yeah,
I think
yeah, we'll go for
Bill,
it.
I don't know. We're gonna have long chats after this because I don't know that the AI is gonna make more better documentation. I don't even know why I want documentation. If someone is use judgment to decide where the window is and what the wall is, and I'm the builder, maybe I don't want another drawing. I just want to be able to query the data and going, here's the manufacturer of the window, here's what the wall is made of. Help me figure out the sealant between this. Like, explain this to me. Don't just give me a transactional drawing. So maybe I'll need some drawings, but we've talked about this idea of using the model, and the model is really just the data, of just being able to query the data to help me understand things in the moment. Because right now, the only thing the contractor can ask for is the detail, and the detail as instructions is pretty abstract at times. So is it the ability to query the model or interact with the model to ask questions? In a sense that certainly there have to be plan sections and elevations and scheduled. There's a legal set of documents, but I can't really ask questions of it. I have to
yeah.
ask questions of the person who made it. So is that discussion or is that query where the data is more interactive? It's not a
Yeah.
transaction.
Yeah, so in my ignorance about 10 years ago or plus, I thought drawings are going to go away. Like all this BIM stuff, we're just going to start using models for construction. And I know some people do that. There are exceptions to this, but that's not the majority. And someone much older and wiser than me came to me and they said that's not the case. Drawings are not going anywhere. You're going to pair the model with the drawings like you pair the drawings with the specs. And the reason is because as a communication tool, we still use pictures to tell where the window goes, where it's at in the wall, what kind of
Yeah.
ceiling it's going to be. And so like, and there are nuances. Like I know shop, especially I've sat in some of the talks. Well, shop does not use construction drawings. They use the model as a deliverable. So there are exceptions to this, but the
Mm,
majority, 99%, 98% of architecture firms 10 years later now are still producing construction drawings. And so
sure.
having that as an output for the means to be able to construct the building is something that we're still going to do. And I think the way you get there, and if you can do it faster, leveraging AI, that's great. The other comment I want to make really quick is that there's this very cliche quote that I use all the time, which is AI is not going to put you out of a job. Someone using AI might. So it's one of those things that, to Nico's point, like he has all these people coming into his class and go, well, I'm very nervous about AI. It's going to put me out of a job. And then they realize, like, wait, someone still has to push the buttons. Still, someone has to drive where this thing is going. And then, therefore, it gives you these superpowers. It augments you. And so it's one of these things that and I give this example like as an anecdote. When I was working in architecture, we were putting out a set of construction drawings, and it was 11:30 p.m. and we were pushing hard on a deadline. And I told my architect, I said, "Hey man, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get a shower, get some rest. I'll come in the morning. We'll hit print." And he goes, "That's fine. Go ahead." And I came in the next morning. He was sitting in the same chair, the same clothes on. The only thing that changed was his smell and a bag of Doritos on the desk. And there was this orange handprint on his shoulder from where he was just snacking on these Doritos. And all of us on this call have been part of this experience in pushing on a set of drawings where, and you guys all know what I'm talking about, where the project manager orders pizza. We're going to push through. We're going to keep going tonight. We're going to get this deadline. We're going to hit print. We've all gone through this experience. So, like, if AI could help eliminate some of this ridiculousness that happens in our projects and in our process that helps give us these superpowers and be able to create a set of drawings faster, to create an animation
Right.
faster, to create a video. I'm for that to give us more of a quality of life and quality of time back personally.
Bill, this happens to me many times back in London when I was in production in London. Adding people on images back in the days in Photoshop takes time. So most of the long nights with pizza was about adding people in Photoshop in a big commercial project. Definitely AI is here to help on that matter. Even if you're going to upscale, enhance a 3D people to real people, or just use Banana Pro to add people, at least you have tools to make it easy and efficient. But before, photographing the people, masking the people, adding the shadows, color grading, color correction, and then the client comes back and then change everything. Oh my God, yeah, I don't miss those moments.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have to
100%.
agree. I feel like, okay, so I'll speak on the model-based delivery too. But I do feel like what we're doing is we are still kind of in the same industry, but I would say like my job started when I started at Shop is no longer my job now, right? And so like part of that is simplifying certain workflows, getting rid of certain workflow habits, like what Nico said, like going on the internet to hopefully find a free image of someone, like people angled at a certain, like
Yeah,
in the
the
photo and
lighting.
lit a certain way, and then you have to like magic wand it to cut it out, and then hopefully it
Oh,
works together.
uh-huh.
And like we've removed that stuff, right? And it's opened us to other like avenues of exploration, like we do like mobile app development like in-house now, which is something that maybe we wouldn't be able to do if we were spending all our time like cutting people out from the internet. um
Right.
and speaking to the thing about like drawing based delivery versus model based delivery and combination with AI, like we actually do a lot of model based delivery. We've been working with AR and VR tools like on site for like the last 6 to 7 years. And we still do traditional drawings, right? And so I think like my most optimistic take of all of this is that in a few years, we still do a bit of everything, right? And AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away. We can't wish it away. But maybe it's, again, it's to reiterate this whole thing, it's a tool and it's going to be part of our toolkit. And it's going to unfortunately replace certain jobs and certain tasks that you used to do and maybe certain expertise, but it's still going to be part of a tool. It's going to work in conjunction with all your other tools. You're still going to have some level of sketching. You're going to still have human connection, right? But then it maybe opens your job up to other things. And I think that's the sort of fun part. It's like, okay, so all that time that you're no longer doing the people cutout, what are you going to fill that time with, right? And it doesn't necessarily even have to be visualization anymore. Like we employ like software developers now. We have engineers. Like we're trying different things, and that's sort of the thing. And maybe none of it works out, but at the same time, we're opening ourselves up to other opportunities in the future.
Yeah, I want to comment really quick too. Like the thing I would say to everybody too is the same advice that I give to my son. So my middle son, he's an artist and he's very discouraged by all this AI stuff. He's upset because now anyone can go to Midjourney and prompt and get a beautiful piece of artwork back. And so the advice that I've told him is that, AI, just like we talked about, is a tool. Just like a hammer is a tool, paintbrush is a tool, your pencil is a tool. It's a tool that helps you do your job. And the other thing is you can be upset with it, but it doesn't change what's happening with the
Right.
world. So the rules, what I've told him is like, listen, man, we're all in this game called life, and the rules of life just changed. Like whether we like it or not, you
Right.
can, to Mandy's point, like you can shake your fist at it, you can be upset at it, you can go, well, what about, this job and this poor person that didn't transition from hand drafting to Revit? Like, what about those people? Like it doesn't, honestly, I hate to be so brute, like forced or honest about candid about this, but like the marketplace does not care. I'm sorry, like it doesn't care when a new tech comes out and there's a faster, better way to do something. And the people that gravitate to that better, faster way are the winners. The people that sit in Nico's class and they go, "Hey, I want to learn this tech." Those are going to be the winners because they're learning what we did in 2008 and 2009 when BIM came out, and we all, well, Phil, you much earlier. I know you were on the wagon back in early 2000s, but the rest of us, came in on the mainstream piece. I did personally around 2008, 2009. And the people that did not adapt to this new BIM technology or the people that didn't adapt to the computational design, this is just another iteration of
Yeah.
something we've all done before. And this is not the first time. People that went from hand drafting to CAD, and so like we're not going. And the other piece too is like when Revit came out and I could drop in that elevation and it would automatically elevate my bathroom or kitchen for me. No one's going, wait a second, Revit's taking my job. I wanted to go through and I wanted to, hand sketch this bathroom or this kitchen. No, like it's just a tool that helped you do your job and do it more efficiently and do it faster.
Yeah. I like the way that May explained it was like, if you know how to build buildings, you're golden. Like you still have to know how to build the building. So does the ultimate piece of one of the pieces of this is if you want to take on the additional risk of being accountable for the construction, not just transactionally in terms of a detail, but actually work with and employ the teams that build it. This is going to put pressure on the AEC space because right now architects and contractors have to be separate business entities. But if I have these amazing tools and I want to be a contractor that employs architects, not creates another business and we work together, but actually a construction firm that employs architects or an architectural firm that employs builders and use technology to do more with as many people as you had before. Why would I just keep doing the same thing that I do with new tech? Why wouldn't I use it to take on more risk and win?
Yeah, the risk takers are going to be the winners and the people that adapt
To
to
be
the new
more
tech.
accountable.
Yeah, and if you don't want to, like, peace, like do you, do you, boo,
Yeah.
as they say. But like I would say, like for people that want to win and people that want to advance in their career, and people that want to stay just with the industry, it is something that you have to do and have to learn, just like we all had to
Somebody
learn
has to figure
Revit.
out how this is going to hold out the weather and, you know, all of the health, safety. Well, they still have to figure out how to build the building in the real world.
Yeah,
So why not embrace the opportunity to do more, not just more in terms of more renderings, but more in terms of, hey, we used to just design this and hand the documents over. I'd like you to meet we've just acquired a construction firm and we're going to start building what we design.
definitely. And that is not changing. That will always be the same.
You know what, Bill, as much as the documentation part, if I delete a window and put a door in, I have to go back and redimension that.
Yeah,
It's like that kind of thing. It's like that's where I just wanted to take over, like
yeah,
intelligently go, oh, you're doing things. We're just going to we're just L's documenting in the background. And so
yeah,
let the L's do their thing. I don't want to have to remember to push the button. The button should
yeah.
be, it's just live updates, pushed, it's pushed.
Yeah, fun acronym. That's what you're talking about is CRUD. Create, read, update, delete. So we all want CRUD. We want to be able just in the background, that window, if I delete and put a door in, CRUD it. I want it to read it, update it, and create a new dimension for me.
We want better. I want elves to be the acronym. I turn on the
Elf,
elf mode and it's just the elves that come out and make the shoes and go back away again.
elf
Anyway,
mode. I love it.
elf. Yeah, yeah, elf. We need to find an acronym which is elf. Yeah, I'm working on that now. The Meji, where in terms of what you expect to see next year, where this is going, where do you think you guys are going to take this beyond present paradigm internally? How
Well,
does this
we
get
are we
embraced?
are trying to find the problem to the solution right now.
Okay.
And I think, just what you and Bill just mentioned right now, it would be very lovely because like, we've had projects where we were so close to being done with the facade drawing set. And then the client comes back and be like, oh, I've completely changed the massing. And then now we have to spend, I kid you not, another year reworking all of that to make sure that the
Hmm.
facade matches that new massing and then get all the approvals because there's still that human dimension of getting approvals, passing, like certain processes, like getting sign and getting buy-in, figuring out budget. And I think like if we can find tools over this next year, in addition to just for visualization, because I think the visualization tools are further along than most of these other things right now. But if we
It's
can
the one that
start,
we understand like immediately.
yeah. And I
Visualization.
think, and it's something that's accessible to most people now. But I think if we can start fixing a lot of these sort of small problem children, that would be great. I would love that.
Specifics.
And it's like, and you know, like it's something that I think we traditionally also associate with like taking interns on and having interns do the elf work, let's say, you know. But
Right.
it would be good to give them something else to do and teach in a different way. And I think that's sort of where we're approaching it right now is finding the problems that need to be solved, right? Finding the right solution that will be applicable to those problems. And that'll hopefully give us time to try new things, explore, streamline workflows, figure out what our next workflow is going to be like, play with more tools, you know?
Right.
And again, like I've enjoyed my journey at this office because what I did on day one is not what I've been doing now. And I think like I would love it if this applied to everybody else who's working in the viz industry and architecture that we find ways to grow. And maybe this is just a forced change right now, right? And this is a sort of a reckoning that everybody has to deal with to be like, okay, where am I pivoting to next? And what's my next direction? And what's exciting about this? And what can I apply to my own working and my own way of thinking? And how can I help the next generation with all of this?
Nico, same. I mean,
Uh,
where do you see this tweaking? Because the way I perceive the AI right now is not only is it tends to be very transactional and it's either all or nothing, and then you have to tweak it at the last moment. But is there a way to get it to do things that we don't, not just we do, not just speeding up existing processes, but I think Mehi mentioned this kind of creating profiles of customers, like from a jury to award a project. Do we start to create uh, agent profiles of our clients to help guide us during the design process? Because they can only come in so often. We can only have that conversation so often. Do we start asking our clients, would you like us to capture your persona so we can use this during our design reviews internally between the actual design review that we get to? Are we starting to do completely new things?
I think that's for me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, are we right now we're using AI to do things that we already do faster. We don't ask the computer right now to make personas of our clients to help us filter design vectors. Do we start making client personas? Are there new things that we can do as opposed to just speeding old processes? Sorry, Nico, my bad.
Oh, so that's for me?
Yeah.
Well, I know this is going to happen next year. I mean, if you ask me, I don't want to go there. I don't want to create personas. I want the real people to give real solutions by asking the client what they need. When I was working again in London, most of the people, the clients coming to us, didn't came to us because we make beautiful work. They came to us because they have a problem and they're looking for a solution. And the solution is to communicate in the best possible way the design for them to start building. So this unique experience, I don't want to lose. I don't want an agent to tell
Right.
me about my client. I want to be on the meeting,
With
discussing the problem and looking for solution myself and the client. I don't want to miss that. I know agents will come and it's going to change the world, but I don't want to miss that, if you ask me.
look, I would love to have an agent at university that's based on the persona of an architect who's no longer with us. Would we like to know what Frank Gehry thinks of your project? We've got 3 jurors today, and the third one is a persona based on the life of Frank Gehry. Let's see what Frank has to say about your project. I would welcome it as just as feedback that I wouldn't get from other people. Like, can we use this in education?
I think we can. But the thing is with education, especially universities, they're so behind. They haven't tried anything of the tools we mentioned today.
Right.
I'm afraid they're not giving the right direction. The professors, they're not actually active in production, commercial work. They have no idea about deadlines and latest trends. So I'm afraid that's a big issue we have to solve.
Yeah,
Because the
there's
new
other.
generation of creators, they need to know these tools, but they also need guidance on mastering the old techniques and become real storytellers, real architects, real designers. I don't want them to be lazy.
I asked a dean at a university or in the early Revit days before the acquisition, because I was at the school doing a presentation. Have you guys thought about using Revit in studios? And he thought for a moment and very profoundly said, we don't teach our students to use software, we teach them to think. And I was so disappointed because I thought, you don't understand what software makes you think. You have to filter decisions through this rule set and tool set. And now they're using Revit in their studios. But it's, it takes a while for them to catch on. You can use AI to help you think. The idea of AI is it's not to remove rigor. It's like, how do you use it to be more rigorous? And if it's not the university, well, where do you guys are teaching this internally at shop? Hey, you're teaching this. Are you having to teach the students, or are they already coming to you deeply curious about these tools with precedents of how they've used them?
They're not really using it at this point yet. I think we're still, I mean, I think like, obviously everybody on this webinar is using these things, but I do think like sometimes we have to put on our hats and realize we're just such a small part of what's actually happening. And I think also shop is very much like technology curious, but not everybody is quite there yet. We do have students who come in, some of the principals who teach at universities, and I actually gave a talk on visualization last week and how we use visualization at shop to a studio of Cornell students. And one thing that I wanted to be very clear was, I talked about the sort of traditional visualization workflow we have, the hand drawings, and instead of putting the AI component at the very end of the talk, I didn't want it to be the elephant in the room. I wanted to make sure that they acknowledge that this is just a part of the process. And you do need to know all the skills before that in order to implement it well. And I actually ended the talk with not just the future of the industry on AI, but here are all these other things that we're exploring right now, whether it's real time, whether it's gamification of architecture and building interactive experiences, or doing virtual production, or doing mobile app development, or pixel streaming. And these are all tools that at the end of the day help build are part of a skill set for visualization, and visualization is just helping people connect to whatever you're trying to convey to them, right?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
communication tool. And so if AI can be part of that communication tool set, great, right? And I think like for me it was important that people understood that it's just one of these tools, but all of these things require a certain level of curiosity and investment and personal research and personal interest and arts and the real world, right? And so like we're not necessarily teaching people like this is a tool that you should be using and this is how you should use it and here are the pitfalls and this is really bad but this is really good so you should do this. We're just saying, look, it's out there,
Right.
right? And most likely these students, these Cornell students are going to be way ahead of us, like let's say in 5 years, right? Because they're going to be involved in also building the use cases for these things. So I think it's a bit arrogant for us to necessarily be teaching people how to use these things. And it's more of sort of a communal experience on how we discover and communicate and use these things together, like we're talking about now, right?
Is
And
your expectation that they have a curiosity about using them?
oh, they are very curious. Like,
Okay.
and I think like when I gave the talk, Nano Banana Pro had come out 2 days ago. So it was still very, very new. And I just saw them like that group of students, people just got on their phones and started looking it up, and you saw all their eyes light up, right? And that's
Okay.
sort of that's kind of the good part of this, is because it's giving people new tools to do new things. I am not responsible for what happens in schools. I don't know what's going to happen in the schools when all these tools are out there, but it is going to build a new way of thinking. And I'm like cautiously excited about what happens next.
Yeah, having tools that help you communicate and increase understanding while removing the transactions of, oh, you need another section through that. Let me do this other section through that, where people can pull things from the data as required. They might ask questions that we didn't anticipate. That seems eminently useful. it seems we have the potential of allowing people to be more rigorous, to be more curious, not to just be lazy. Oh, I can do that trivially now. But to be more rigorous, to be more accountable. I hope the universities just embrace it in the right way. Normally, they seem to be a decade behind, where they'll wait to see what sticks, or they don't believe it at first, and then they'll see that it's actually something that works, and then they go, "Oh, it does that. Well, let's make a committee and decide how we're going to teach it. It'll take a decade, and then we will maybe, things will
But
have
the
shifted."
students will be there.
They're already going to
Students will
go.
be
They're
there.
going to go
They're
fast.
already there, so it's a responsibility that they're going to have to take on. And I think I'm curious to see how it's going to change education. Maybe nothing will change at all, and because, even with all the tools that we're using now, I mean, I never formally learned a lot of these tools, and it was through communities, it was through
Right.
tutorials and YouTube and like finding the right people, finding mentors, like all of these things that help me learn these things. It was not necessarily school.
It was
And
it
so
was
like the professor,
self-driven.
yeah, and it was like the professor you met. It's like we teach how to think. I think there's some truth in that, right? Like at the end of the day, people can learn the software, but to be
Well,
able
I
to
think, yeah,
like
you have
have a
to challenge
certain
them to
point
be
of view.
rigorous.
Yeah, it's like to have a certain point of view, to have a certain eye, to understand aesthetics. Like these are things that aren't, they're agnostic.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that universities are going to pick this up and run with it yet. The students are going to run with it, and the professors will be confused. So it'll be up to us to help guide the curious, um, to be rigorous. But if they would, I think it could be used in a wonderful way to help students to be rigorous and to be accountable for a design idea. Okay, you've come to that point. Now make it. Make it with cardboard or basswood. Make it in the model. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Find where where the dead bodies are in that design and fix them. You know, keep going. Um, Bill, closing thoughts. We'll go around the room.
Um,
What's sticky? Whenever you have conversations like this, I've had things that I've been writing down that I didn't think I'd think of that I need to look into. What's
yeah,
popped into your
agreed.
head during the discussion that you weren't planning on having pop into your head that you think is going to be interesting?
I mean, I always find these conversations so inspirational, and I love being around people that think differently than me. Like it challenges my own thoughts around things, and I always find that so good. Like I want to stay humble and try to, try to learn from you guys as much as I can. And so I personally have enjoyed the conversation, learning from you all and getting a different perspective on different things. Um, I guess one closing thought I would have is that these are tools, in our tool belt. They do give us superpowers, but the one thing that is different about this technology is that no other technology before it was able to reason. And so that's where these tools are very, very different. Is like it can take information and reason about it similar to how we think. So it's a very, very different technology. And it
Right.
opens up the door for much different and new possibilities that have ever existed before. So that would be my closing thought
It
or
seems like
perspective.
most of the technology gets used to consume entertainment, but this I feel like is the technology that's actually not just capable of consuming, but actually creating or being
Hmm.
that co-pilot, as you said.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like it's promising. Like if I don't know how to use a tool, it will teach me how to use a tool to use the tool as that
Yeah.
co-pilot mentor. Mehi, what do you think's important out of this? What or something that you have has come to mind that was not there before this discussion?
I think there's a lot of potential.
Hmm.
Um, I think we should definitely be aware of what's happening next, but I think one of Nikos's points really stuck with me. The idea is like, also be confident with your tools, right? And like know and take away from it that like you are the editor, you are the
Right.
one you need to stay in control of what you're doing and what you're using, and be aware that there is a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of exciting things, but it's up to you to really pick your path forward. And I mean, I think we're still it's happening, but we're still very, very early in all of this. And I'm excited about how it all develops. I would say even in just the next year, I am excited to see how I can implement a lot of these tools. I'm excited to see all the successes and failures, and hopefully not waste too much time on the failures.
And let it be messy. It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think like some things will not last very long and some things will be um, permanent, maybe as part of our workflows and our lives in the future. But it is up to us to keep an open mind and also stay true to what we believe in.
I like the part where you mentioned, Nico, that you said you should pick a tool and stick with it.
Yeah.
Because one of the anxieties for me is I keep getting these, have you seen this latest thing? Like, oh gosh, I have to balance. I've enough eggs to juggle. Now I'm juggling more AI eggs. I have to learn all of these. I can't do it. And so why this idea that you said, no, pick one and just stick with it. Pick one and commit. Go deep.
When I
I love
started doing that, trust me, I was feeling much better on a daily basis because I was around looking for the next new thing. And I realized, Nikos, what the fuck are you doing, man? That's wrong. Just find your tools, stick to it, master those tools, and then offer that knowledge to somebody else. That's exactly what you're doing. You're creating workflows, you're creating pipelines. So stop messing around. Yes, you have to be aware of what's happening, but stick to your tools. It's definitely that.
But don't hesitate to turn off the noise and
Yeah,
get
just
to
turn
know
off the
what
noise. The
something
same
is.
with social media. If I see myself scrolling for no reason, I stop doing that and put the phone down and say, Nikos, wake up. What are you doing? There is so much challenge out there. So everybody's using those tools now. What about your skills? What about yourself? So, embrace technology, but remember your skills, remember storytelling, remember that you are a creator and your passion is to create. So don't forget to create. It's a simple thing. It's simple as that.
Yeah, I like the way that Mehi said that you should embrace the community to help you filter all
Yeah,
of this noise as well. That's just like, that hasn't changed. It's
that's
still
hasn't changed.
real people.
Find the up next to you.
So
That talks.
anything that came to mind as we've been chatting, that a thought or an idea that you didn't have an hour and a half ago, that now is something interesting to you?
Well, to
Concept.
be honest, I'm truly inspired by this conversation, and I would like to thank the community for being here today. And
Yeah.
we have different people with different skills. And to me, that almost 2 hours now, it's what we need. More conversations about what we feel afraid of. Conversations about how you build using those tools, how Maggie using those tools, how I'm using those tools. It's the only way to convince people to try, experiment, and feel confidence about what's coming. It's going to go crazy. But by doing these community events and talking about these things, I think we're creating an energy that can create a change. So I'm super excited to be here, and thank you for the invitation, Phil. It was an
You guys,
amazing.
thank you very much. I think we can wrap up now, unless you have any other closing ideas, Bill, Mehi, Nico.
I think we
No?
covered so many great things, and
We
Yeah,
covered a lot, yeah.
for being
let's get
here,
together
I'm
soon.
trying to follow
Absolutely.
that and people loving. And when I see people discussing during webinar, and it feels like a community, and that's why we're here to hang out, exchange knowledge, and elevate one another. So we need more of this.
Yeah, I would like to get together in person. I think as far as community goes,
That's
these
always
webinars are good, but
always great and always a
if we can find
priority.
a way to get
Maggie
together in
knows
person and
how much I love the online.
actually tap glasses and go, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you in the real world.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
critical part of it.
True.
Everyone, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time, Bill, Mehi, Nico.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
have a wonderful
Everybody,
holiday season, and we'll see you next year. It's around the corner.
have a beautiful year then. Very creative.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.